One quiet morning, the world ends. No power, no water, no help. What do you do next? This isn't a sci-fi fantasy. It's a calm guide through total collapse. So lie back, listen closely, and ask yourself, could you survive the end? You spend the next morning crouched in silence, staring at the dirt. Not because it's interesting, but because today, dirt is your enemy, your resource, and your solution all at once. You need shelter. Yes, you already have a place to sleep, a tent, a lean-to, maybe a partially intact house, but long-term survival demands more than patchwork. You need insulation, structural safety, and protection from the increasingly volatile weather. Today, you'll start building your earth shelter. Not a cabin, not a mansion, just a low, squat, hidden dome of dirt and determination. You begin by choosing a spot, slightly elevated to avoid water pooling, with natural tree cover to hide it from aerial view, and soil firm enough to hold shape. You mark a circle with a rope and a stick. The radius? 2 meters. Then you start digging. This is sweat equity, pure and simple. As you dig, you set the soil aside carefully. You'll need it later for building. Every shovelful is future insulation. The hole becomes a bowl, a pit, then a shallow crater about chest deep. Your arms ache, your shirt sticks to your skin. You drink water warmed by the sun and taste minerals in every drop. Time for structure. You pull branches, long, flexible saplings, and begin bending them into arches, fixing the ends into the soil around the perimeter. You do this again and again, lashing intersections with vines and cord, until you have a skeletal dome, a rib cage of a primitive beast, curved and sturdy. Now, the skin. First, you weave smaller branches and grasses into the frame to form a kind of lattice. Then you mix cob, a blend of dirt, straw, and water, stomped by bare feet, until it becomes a doughy paste. It's messy, it's ancient, and it works. You slap handfuls onto the structure, pressing it between gaps, smoothing it like clay. Layer by layer, the dome becomes solid, earthy, almost warm to the touch. The roof is next. You create a vent, a small, intentional hole at the top for smoke to escape. Then you add thatch, layered bark, and more cob to keep the rain out. By evening, the dome looks like a hillock, invisible from a distance, humble up close. Inside, it's dark, quiet, and smells of clean soil. You press your palms to the wall and feel thickness, security. Not done yet. You carve out a small trench around the base to redirect water. Add flat stones to the floor to keep your bedding dry. Hang your solar lantern from a curved branch wedged between rafters. Then you collapse outside, legs in the grass, arms streaked with earth, staring at the clouds like a god who just invented housing. You remember stories from long ago, how the earliest humans built pit houses, how soldiers dug foxholes, how hobbits carved homes into hillsides. None of it was luxury, but it was safety. Tomorrow you'll reinforce it with clay and test its fireproofing. You'll consider a rocket stove for warmth, and maybe a tiny rain-catching system with gutters made from soda bottles. But for now, you curl up inside your dirt igloo and feel like part of the planet, not just surviving on it. Outside, wind rustles the leaves. Inside, you're still, sheltered, and almost home.
You wake in the middle of the night, not from cold this time, but from quiet, a deep, absolute silence, the kind that blankets everything. The fire's heat lingers in the stones beside you, your breath steady, your body still warm beneath salvaged blankets. But another need presses on you now: light. Not just firelight, something controllable, directional, persistent. You've learned to love the dark. It hides you. It slows everything down. But you also need to move through it, sometimes work in it, and above all, signal with it, just in case someone somewhere is still watching the night sky. So today's project is creating a reliable light source, one that doesn't depend on batteries or wires or the grid that died years ago. The sun is your ally, and your target? A solar lantern. You don't have a factory, but you have scraps: old electronics, broken garden lights, bits of copper wire, shards of solar panels from someone's patio decor, each piece useless on its own. Together? Maybe. You sit cross-legged at your workspace, a slab of plywood balanced on two crates, and begin to sort: a cracked solar stake light, an LED bulb scavenged from a toy, a button cell battery with some life left, and electrical tape that sticks more out of memory than adhesion. You work slowly, your fingers stiff from cold, the morning light just beginning to burn through the fog. You detach the tiny solar cell from the garden light, soldered OLEDs, using a bit of copper wire twisted tight, to the charge controller. Well, more of a hopeful pathway than a real controller. Then connect it to the battery, and finally to the LED. You hold your breath and angle it toward the rising sun. The panel drinks in light like it remembers how. An hour later, you flip a switch you fashioned from a bent paper clip. The LED flickers. Then glows. Not bright, but enough. You shield it with a cut plastic bottle frosted with fine grit to diffuse the glow, wrap it in aluminum foil to reflect and intensify it. You hang it from a bent coat hanger over your workspace. It's dim. It's humble. It's yours. This small, homemade lantern becomes your moon, watching over you at night. You build another from an old crank flashlight. The crank's broken, so you repurpose the gear mechanism to spin using a hand drill, something you can crank for a minute to get a few minutes of light. Every scrap matters now. You think about the ancients, how they once relied on oil lamps, wax candles, fireflies in jars. Not so different from you now, except your fireflies are diodes and trickles of electricity. By afternoon, you go big. You prop up a solar oven, a reflective setup using broken CDs, foil-lined pizza boxes, and the curved windshield reflector you pulled from a burned-out car. You place a pot of water inside. It takes hours, but it gets warm. Not hot enough to boil, but close. You take notes, adjust angles, dream of baking bread again someday. But light isn't just utility, it's psychological. At night, you build a circle of candles in glass jars, each one salvaged, refilled with wax from stubs, the wicks twisted from cotton shirt strips. You light them in order, clockwise, marking the hours before you sleep. They don't last long, but they give rhythm to your night. Then, an idea. You crack open an old solar pathlight again and mount it atop a pole just outside your shelter. You embed a small mirror behind it. Every time it catches enough light to blink on, even faintly, you feel like a lighthouse keeper, guiding no one, but still lighting the shore. Because you never know. Because hope is also a kind of energy. That night, you sit outside in the glow of your new solar lantern. The stars above seem a little brighter. Maybe it's the contrast. Or maybe your eyes are just learning how to hope again in the dark.
You're up before dawn this time, stirred by the cold biting through your makeshift walls. The wind has eased,
but frost etches lace across the tarp roof. Your breath curls like smoke in the dim light. Today, it's time to chase warmth. The fire you've been dreaming about won't start itself. You've already gathered bits of knowledge from burned-out manuals, overheard stories, and trial by singe. What you're aiming to build now isn't just a fire pit, it's a rocket stove. Efficient, directional, hot. You sketch it in your mind, a small combustion chamber at the base, a vertical chimney above, a feeder for fuel at an angle. You don't need blueprints. Your hands remember more than paper ever will. You begin with the body. 4 cinder blocks salvaged from the collapsed corner of a warehouse, heavy, chipped, but stackable. 2 for the base, 1 with a hole for feeding sticks, and 1 upright to act as a chimney. You seal the seams with mud and clay, packing them tight. The whole structure ends up no higher than your knee, but it's sturdy. Next, the fuel. You gather thumb-thick sticks, as dry as you can find. Barkless is best. You strip a few with your mache and leave them under the tarp to dry even more. They'll burn faster, hotter, cleaner. But before you light it, you need tinder. Not paper, you ran out days ago. You crush dry pine needles and mix them with cotton pulled from a torn sleeping bag lining. A sprinkle of candle wax, scraped from the stub of an old votive, turns it into a tiny inferno waiting to happen. You strike the flint. Sparks kiss the cotton. It hisses, then blooms. You feed it carefully, piece by piece, until the sticks catch and the rocket stove roars softly, like a lion purring. The chimney draws the flame upward. No smoke in your face, no wasted fuel. You sit beside it, hands hovering close, soaking in the warmth like it's love. Then comes the next evolution, heat retention. You collect dark river stones, flat ones, dense and sun-warmed. You place them in a ring around the fire. Once heated, they'll hold warmth for hours. You line your shelter's floor perimeter with them too. At night, you'll sleep beside a wall of stored heat. You wrap one in a cloth and press it to your chest, like hugging a memory of summer. Now you have a source of hot water. You find a metal pot, rusted but serviceable, and boil creek water filtered through your charcoal and sand setup. The steam curls upward, clean and sweet. It smells like life. You brew pine needle tea, rich in vitamin C. Bitter, but it's warm. You sip it slowly, watching the mist roll across the hills. Your mind drifts. You think about how fire used to be invisible to you, just background comfort. Now it's survival, warmth, light, clean water, cooked food, morale. You cook rice from your dwindling stash, add dried mushrooms from your foraging kit, sprinkle in a pinch of salt, the last from a forgotten fast food packet. You eat every grain. The silence around you isn't so threatening anymore. It's peaceful. Mid-afternoon, you insulate the fire pit with more stone, building a shell that holds its heat longer. You think about building a thermal mass bench eventually, somewhere to lie across and absorb warmth all night. But not today. Today, you watch the fire die slowly, glowing down to coals, stones radiating. You realize you're not chasing warmth anymore. You've caught it. And like everything now, it's something you built.
You wake earlier than usual. Not because of hunger, though your stomach is an echo chamber, but because the wind has changed. It whistles differently through the tower's rusted struts, like a warning whispered between the bones of a dying world. You sit up slowly. Today is Wall's Day. You stretch out your arms, crack your back, and take a slow lap around your shelter's skeleton. The frame has held through the night. That's a win. Now comes the part that separates a lean-to from a home. Enclosure. The scavenged construction site gave you just enough wooden planks to start one wall. You choose the west side, where the wind is strongest and the sun disappears. You measure nothing. Everything is by feel now. You align each plank vertically, one by one, using rebar stakes and twisted wire to reinforce the gaps. Nails bend, holes splinter. But you find a rhythm. Tap, align, drive. Tap, align, drive. The sound is meditative, like breathing. Around midday, you pause to eat. You find a can of something unmarked. You shake it. It sloshes. You open it slowly, prepared for the worst. It's pears. Sweet, syrupy, borderline holy. You almost cry. The syrup goes into your solar still. Waste nothing. You decide to supplement the wall with what the forest provides. There's a grove nearby, full of slim, young saplings. You test each one for flexibility, snapping a few by mistake. You choose 8 perfect poles. Straight, light, strong. You peel off the bark with your machete, hands sticky with sap, and set them as a woven barrier between the frame's beams. Primitive fencing. Effective. Beautiful, in a way. Next is insulation. You gather armfuls of dried grass and leaves, stuffing the inner walls until they resemble the padding of a scarecrow. Not perfect, but it traps air. Air means warmth. You seal gaps with mud, thick, dark, adhesive, like icing a survival cake. At this point, your hands are raw again, so you make gloves. You cut a salvaged hoodie into 4 strips, fold them over your palms, and tie them with twine. Not elegant, but better than bleeding. As the sun dips low, you stand back and admire your progress. 3 walls up, a roof tarp in place. It's no palace, but it's enclosed. You sleep inside it tonight. Before nightfall, you reinforce the doorway with a piece of chain-link fencing and a door you've repurposed from an old chicken coop gate. It latches with a bent nail. Every survivalist knows, a barrier is not for stopping others, it's for buying time. You go to bed with a plan for tomorrow, fire and heat. But before you drift off, you realize something. You're not just surviving anymore. You're adapting.
At first light, you rise. Your body aches again, but less than yesterday. There's a rhythm forming, waking with the sky, moving when the sun's up, sleeping when it falls. No clocks, just instinct. Today, the real work begins. You sipped from your last bottle of boiled water. It tastes faintly like plastic and smoke, but it's clean. You pack what you can. Rope, the machete, the hatchet, your lighter, still useless, and a small notebook to map your thoughts. Your goal? Gather the raw materials to build your base. You head out, marking your path with red cloth tied to branches. That rope you found? You've sliced it into strips. If you're lost, you can always backtrack. The town opens up before you like a peeled fruit, quiet and soft and slightly rotting. You find an abandoned construction site. Jackpot. It's fenced off, but the gate swings with a whine. Inside, piles of cinder blocks, rusted rebar, wooden planks stacked like forgotten dreams. There's even a wheelbarrow, its tire long flat, but usable. You start loading. One trip, then another. You pile the supplies near your shelter under the tower. Bricks, boards, nails. It's a slow process. You sweat through your shirt, your hands blister. You laugh once when you spill an entire bucket of screws in the grass. You stop laughing when you can't find most of them again. But by midday, your hoard has grown, enough to frame a small structure. You sketch a floor plan in the dirt with a stick, 4 meters by 3.5. Just enough to lie down, sit up,
and store supplies. You start by clearing the ground. Remove roots, flatten the earth. You use a shovel made from a repurposed road sign sharpened on concrete. It's slow going. Then the digging. You're not building a skyscraper, but you need foundation trenches, just 30 centimeters deep, just enough to keep wind from catching under the walls. You fill the trenches with rocks for drainage. You pour dirt back in. Tamp it down with your feet. Primitive, but solid. Next, the frame. You hammer the first upright post into place with a sledgehammer found behind a gas station. The vibrations buzz through your arms. One by one, the corners go up. You lash cross beams with wire, then hammer them tight with rusted nails. It creaks, groans, but it holds. Roof? Not yet. But the tarps will do for now. Walling comes later. Now, you need water. You take the sketch from the notebook, a solar still. You dig a shallow pit, line it with plastic taken from shattered greenhouse windows. In the center, a metal cup. Overhead, you stretch another sheet of clear plastic, weight it in the middle with a pebble pointing down. Condensation, drips. Slow, but steady. While that brews in the sun, you scout the ditch near the tower. You find cattails and moss, signs of groundwater. You dig again, deeper this time. Wet mud seeps up. You line a small pool with your only cooking pot. By evening, you have enough to boil a second ration of water. Dinner is beans again, cold this time. You sketch your progress on a board ripped from a fence. Day 3, you carve with a nail. Your shelter isn't done. Your food's almost gone. But you have a frame, a tarp roof, a water source, 2, technically, and a plan. As night falls, you hear something. A creak in the distance. You freeze. Then another, closer. You grip the machete and crouch behind your half-built wall, but it's just the wind. Probably. You sleep lightly that night, fireless, cold. But as you drift, your last thought is not fear. It's pride. You built something. And tomorrow, you build more. Morning doesn't arrive the way it used to. There's no alarm clock, no bird song, no distant rumble of garbage trucks. Just a slow, gray light filtering through cracks in the wood. You slept in your shoes, one arm still wrapped around your pack like it might float away in the night. You sit up slowly. Your joints pop like breaking twigs. The air is cold and damp, and your breath fogs slightly as you exhale. You're hungry now, not the gentle morning hunger that reminds you of breakfast, but the low, hollow kind that stretches through your ribs and makes you feel slightly sick. You open one of the cans. Cold beans taste like metal and regret, but you eat, slowly, listening. Nothing. You step outside and realize something crucial. You can't survive here. Not long. The food will run out. The water will run dry. You need a base. Something safe, secure, scalable. You need to build. The planning starts in your head before you take your first step. What do you need to live, truly live, in a world that's given up? Shelter, water, food, heat, security. A place that can protect you from the elements and from what might be out there. You don't know yet if you're alone, and you don't know which would be worse, being the last or not. So you start walking. You decide to head toward the water tower in the distance. It's tall, visible, maybe functional.
Elevation means visibility. Visibility means foresight. Foresight means survival. You pass houses as you walk, doors ajar, windows shattered. You peek inside a few. One has a child's toy on the floor. Another has a dinner table still set, now covered in mildew and rot. You spot an old hiking backpack. You trade yours for it. It's sturdier, has more pockets. Along the way, you begin collecting. A rusted handsaw, 2 plastic tarps, a pile of canned goods left in a garage, a half-full propane tank, a battered first aid kit, missing the painkillers. Every item you grab becomes a piece of the puzzle. You're not just scavenging, you're curating your future. It takes hours to reach the water tower. By now the sun is low and blood orange in the sky. The land around the tower is mostly clear. There's a drainage ditch nearby, overgrown but moist. You spot cattails, plants that filter water naturally. Useful. The tower itself is no use for shelter, but it becomes your lighthouse. You'll build near it, use it as a landmark, as your claim on this new world. There's a small tool shed at the base. Inside, a dusty but intact hatchet, a coil of nylon rope, a rusted machete with a cracked handle. Jackpot. You set up camp in the shadow of the tower. String one of the tarps between the shed and a thick tree trunk. Anchor the corners with bricks from a collapsed fire pit. It's crude, but better than a floor. That night, you boil water over a fire you coax out of broken furniture and old magazines. You use a metal pot with a dented bottom, and a metal strainer you've bent into a lid. It takes longer than you expect. Everything does. As you sip the bitter warmth, you pull out the damp notebook. The pages are fragile, but legible. You find a sketch of a makeshift solar still. A note beneath it: evaporation is survival. Someone was preparing too. The plan crystallizes. Tomorrow, you'll scout further. Find tools, materials. You'll build more than shelter. You'll build something that can last. But for now, as the stars emerge, quiet and uncaring, you huddle under the tarp and watch your fire shrink into glowing embers. The wind whistles softly through the tower's supports. You're alone, but not broken. Not yet.
Hey guys, tonight we're going to wake up after the end of the world. There's no countdown, no final broadcast, no mushroom cloud on the horizon, just stillness. You open your eyes on a floor you don't recognize. It might have been a living room once. Faded wallpaper, a cracked mug, some sun-bleached socks curled in a corner. There's dust, so much dust, floating like ghosts in a shaft of pale light. You sit up and your body aches like it hasn't moved in days. Your mouth is dry, your stomach pulls tight like a clenched fist, and the most unsettling thing, silence. No cars, no voices, not even the hum of a fridge or the buzz of a fly. The windows are smeared with soot, but one pane is broken, so you crawl over. Outside? Nothing. Trees standing too still, a street choked with wind-blown paper, the hollow carcass of a bicycle tipped against a fence. The air smells like rust and old rain. You don't remember how you got here, but your instincts start whispering before your mind does. You need water, you need shelter, you need to move. You stand, unsteady. The floor creaks underfoot. Dry boards, brittle with time. You check your pockets. A lighter with no spark. A wrapper, empty. A ring of keys, though none look familiar. There's a backpack near the door. You crawl to it. Inside, a half-empty bottle of water, 2 cans of beans, and a damp notebook filled with smeared handwriting. You can't read the words, but someone wrote them. Someone else was here. You drink 2 mouthfuls of water. It's metallic, but cold. a comfort you didn't realize you craved. Then you listen, really listen. A dog bark? A car engine? No, just the whistle of wind. So you open the door, a screen door slaps behind you. The sun is high but distant, filtered through a yellow haze. You feel exposed, naked in the open. Every step on gravel sounds like a gunshot in church. Your first destination? High ground. You need to see where you are, what's around. But the street curves and the horizon is hidden by sagging rooftops and overgrown trees. As you walk, you notice something strange. Mail still in boxes, cars stopped mid-turn, even a coffee cup balanced on a porch railing. It's like everyone vanished mid-sentence. Half an hour later, you spot a hill, a small one, but enough. The climb burns your thighs. You cough more than you'd like. At the top, you finally see it. Your world is a ghost town. Neighborhoods empty, fields unplowed, a water tower in the distance covered in ivy. A train sits motionless on rusted tracks, its doors open like a mouth too tired to close. And no smoke, no fire, no signs of struggle. Just absence. You sit there, breathing slowly. You count your supplies. 1 day's food if you're careful. 2 if you get hungry enough to eat cold beans. The water won't last long. There's no map, no signal, and so far, no signs of life. Your watch has stopped. Or maybe time has. A hawk circles overhead. You hope it's real. It's getting late. You find a shed behind a collapsed house. The door groans when you push it open. Inside, dust, spider webs, and a tarp you use to make a crude bed. You wedge a shovel across the door handle, your first defense. That night you try to sleep, but your body's on high alert. Every creak, every shifting breeze makes you flinch. You curl into yourself and listen to your own heartbeat. The world has ended, but you haven't. And that, somehow, feels heavier than anything else.